Hello and welcome back to Speculative Dude Presents. I'm your host, Speculative Dude. Now, I was going to continue my series on racing movies this week, but I'm actually going to hold that off one more week because I had a request. I admit that I went a little bit fanboy on the movie, the new Godzilla movie, just because it was what I was hoping for. However, I had someone ask me, were there any Godzilla movies that you didn't like? I kind of obviously showed a little bit of disgust for the Roland Emmerich film, but, that's not really the only Godzilla movie that I've been disappointed in, to say the least. So, a break from formula, I'm going to be doing my first ever top 5 least favorite Godzilla movies. Now, these aren't necessarily the top 5 worst, in my opinion. These are just my top 5 least favorite. They all have reasons. And, I'm sure everybody else who has, who enjoys a series that's run 29 movies, you're going to find some that you don't like, to say the least. So, starting at number 5 is, in fact, the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. Probably don't need to go into a whole lot of reasons to why I don't really like that movie, but one of the biggest reasons is that apparently after reading, there was an original script, and after reading that script, Roland Emmerich took it, threw it away, and said, well, the source material is stupid, I can do it better. Well, anyone who's a Godzilla fan knows that didn't happen. So, as I said, just, everything about that Godzilla seemed disappointing, and then, there were too many points in the movie where they tried to put in comedy. Now, it's not that there hasn't been comedy in plenty of the other Godzilla movies, it's just that some of it seemed a little more situationally appropriate. Not always, but, this one, it just felt like they were trying to force a little bit too much on there. I actually like Matthew Broderick as an actor. I think that his monotone and his delivery can be very good, but here it just kind of suffers from no one really knowing, basically the script not really knowing what it wanted to do, and not really knowing how to explain things. The only thing they explained was about the A-bomb test, that created Godzilla in that storyline, which they had talked about in the Heisei series, which was basically Generation 2 of Godzilla. They talked about that happening. But other than that, it really was very detached from its source material. And, that's very disappointing to me. So, that's number 5. Number 4, Godzilla 1985, aka Godzilla Returns. I wasn't really gonna put this on the list at first, just because, well, it's a standalone Godzilla movie, if you will. Unlike the Roland Emmerich film, which is a standalone Godzilla's. When I say standalone, it's Godzilla by himself. It's Godzilla versus humans. In that, Godzilla 1985 is the same way, but it was a way to reboot the franchise after a 10-year hiatus. The last movie, Terror of Mechagodzilla, having been made in 1974. Japan brought back Godzilla in 1984. America got it in 1985, with extensive recuts. And in saying that, some people I know have issues with that one because it was recut. Well, the recuts had to do with putting Raymond Burr in, from reprising his role from the first Godzilla movie, as well as a couple of moments for, if you will, national chest thumping. If you watch the first 3 movies, especially of the Godzilla, the second generation Godzilla, the Heisei series, Japan is I wouldn't say very much anti-American, but there's a lot of looking down on America in those movies, to the point where, I don't like to get into politics in movies because I think that takes away a lot from the entertainment, but if you look at them, it's there, very strongly. In Godzilla 1985, America launches a nuclear bomb, which is what ends up reviving Godzilla. And there's a Russian boat captain who ends up detonating the bomb before it actually hits and destroys Tokyo, but the fallout revives Godzilla. In the American recut, the Russian captain they make it look like the Russian captain is the one who launches the bomb, and then the Americans are scrambling to try and destroy it. Again, because of the Cold War with Russia at the time, I get why the recuts were made, but at the same time, that and the two follow-up movies, Godzilla vs. Biollante and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, there's so much chest thumping that it's like, I don't know, national chest thumping. That kind of bothers me in movies. That, like I said, that takes away from the entertainment. You know, Our Country is the Greatest has never been entertaining to me. But that's not actually why I put it on the list. I put it on the list because of the scene where Super X2, or the original Super X, almost kills Godzilla. And, you know, this is a monster that has destroyed every military ever sent to it, or after it, before and since. You know, some more effectively than others. We'll get into the Millennium series later. But, you know, and all of a sudden, this one supposedly technologically advanced vehicle almost kills Godzilla. Yeah, I get that they're launching missiles into his mouth, but still, it's like, come on. It's like, you know, also, this thing was supposedly so powerful that even though the Super X2 was better, it actually survived the fight much longer than the Super X, its, you know, follow-up, the Super X2 did. Even though the Super X2 had the fire mirror and all that stuff. It just, I felt that the technology-wise, they're completely ineffectual. Then they build this one vehicle that is so awesome it almost kills them, and it's like, really? That's disappointing. And that's why Godzilla Returns, aka Godzilla 1985, holds the number 4 spot on my list. Now, to number 3, this one, I really wasn't going to put any Showa era Godzilla movies is on my list because, well, if you think about how the movies were made, a lot of the early Godzilla movies, you know, the ones that are considered more campy, you know, from the 1954 to 1974, are, you know, products of their time. Not only the technological limitations and visual limitations, but, you know, the stories as well. However, going back and looking over the series, I started to realize that the Heisei series, the Generation 2 of Godzilla, the stories really weren't any better than the original series. They just visually looked better because of the technological advancements. So it's like, okay, going back, I had to judge these on a little bit more of an even keel than I thought I would. So honestly, my number 3 pick is the original Godzilla vs. Mothra. And not because Godzilla loses the fight, although I prefer the movies, honestly, where Godzilla is more of the hero monster, or even in the Heisei series, where Godzilla was still considered a threat, but he was the lesser of two evils when it came down to between Godzilla and another monster. And Godzilla came out on top. I didn't mind that too much. I wasn't the biggest fan, but it's alright. It's still satisfying. In the original, and I know Godzilla started out in his first several films as the if you will, the villain monster. But that's not why this is on the list. The list isn't even really that Godzilla loses the fight. It's how Godzilla loses the fight in this one. Mothra's egg is under attack. It's being, it's stolen. Heck, they replicate that storyline in the Generation 2 Godzilla movie, Godzilla vs. Mothra. But in this one, Mothra's egg is under attack by Godzilla. Mothra goes to defend it, ends up getting killed by Godzilla. The egg hatches. Two Mothra larvae come out, which is interesting because that's the only time you ever see two. After that, it's always just a singular, caterpillar. So you kind of got to wonder what happened to the other one. But I would not actually have minded had Godzilla been taken out by adult Mothra. But Godzilla gets taken out by two caterpillars squirting silly string at him. It's like, really? The king of the monsters gets taken out by two caterpillars spinning their webbing at him. that's, at least the adult Mothra could fly around and dive bomb and, do some things that would make it seem like it could actually attack. That was just pathetic writing, in my opinion. It's, like I said, again, I get that Godzilla was supposed to be the villain monster, but that was just pathetic. And that's why, Godzilla versus Mothra, the original Godzilla versus Mothra holds the number 3 spot on my list. Now, the number 1 and number 2, I really had to debate as to which one I didn't like more, or which one both movies, one of them I hadn't even thought about in a long time, just because I'd seen it once, kind of let it fade from memory, and then let it come back. And I'll get to that. The other one, the number 2, I disliked from the moment I saw it. And it's from the Millennium series, and that is Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Oh boy, this movie was painful to sit through as a Godzilla fan. Not only did they have a new Godzilla costume after the first couple of Godzilla movies from the Millennium series, it looked terrible. The Godzilla suit looked terrible. I mean, it looked. I'm not saying the other suits necessarily looked realistic, but at least there was something fluid about the motion when it was used. This one was awful. Any close-up on Godzilla's face, it looked insanely rubbery. I mean, there's times when Godzilla's head would move, and you could still, it would stop moving, and you could still see the suit jiggle. And it's like, that was, I mean, honestly, it just felt like shoddy construction. Godzilla didn't have eyes. Instead, he just had glowing orbs in his head. There were no actual eyes. In any other Godzilla movie, you actually see he's got eyes. So, I didn't like that at all. So that's just the production of the Godzilla suit. The story, I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan in the Heisei series when they brought in, psychics and telekinesis into the Godzilla series, which I just thought was, odd, but considering the fascination with that at the time, it's like, okay, I mean, I get why they did it, I'm just not really sure why they kept it around. But again, that's neither here nor there. In this movie, there's a statement made at one point where Godzilla is instead of the impending threat of a possible impending nuclear war, which Godzilla was, meant to simplify the horrors of possible, nuclear destruction. No, now Godzilla in this movie has become the spirit of the soldiers who died in the Japanese army, but who were not acknowledged and appreciated for their effort. And it's like, and now that rage has turned on to. It's like, wait, what? Like, come on. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Godzilla supposedly is going to go try and destroy Japan because of his vengeful spirit, and will be trying stopped by 3 spirit beasts. It's like, really? Good lord. The first one being Baragon, whose name doesn't even get in the title. Not surprising considering how quickly he's taken out. Honestly, I always thought that Baragon and Godzilla would be allies in a movie together if Godzilla were a hero movie, and I always thought that they would team up, be willing to team up, but no, apparently not. That's and second, you have Mothra. Well, I get that Mothra's always been a defender of the people, and that's fine. I've never had an issue with that. But the third monster was just infuriating, because this monster has always been a villain character, and all of a sudden they made it a hero monster, and that was King Ghidorah. It's like, whose idea was it to try and make King Ghidorah an alien super monster into a hero? This is quite possibly Godzilla's most powerful enemy, and you're making him the hero now? I get that Godzilla is the villain monster in this movie again, but at least in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah in the Heisei series, Godzilla was still the lesser of 2 evils. It honestly almost to me seemed like another version where someone took a look at the source material, says, I don't like it, I can do it better. and then wrote this script and just happened to use monsters that were there. It's like, oh, this is a cool monster, I'll throw it in here. I don't care if it's a good guy or not. It's like, and it's, I said, from a Godzilla fan perspective, I really, that's why Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Attack takes the number 2 spot. And before I get to my number 1, there's a couple of, I guess you could say, dishonorable mentions. These are movies that, they're not my favorites by any means, and they do carry a fair amount of disdain behind them. But maybe I can overlook, maybe I don't mind them quite as much for one reason or another. One being Godzilla's Revenge. And that is it's silly, it's maybe even stupid on some levels. It follows the daydreams of a little boy who wants to see monsters. So he daydreams that he goes to Monster Island and sees, Godzilla's son there, who apparently can change sizes. I get why a lot of people say that may be the worst Godzilla movie, but at the same time, looking at it from a perspective of who the movie was made for, I also get why a lot of the things were done. I'm not the biggest fan of all the use of stock footage from other movies, but that's not really, again, this was towards the latter part of Godzilla's run, and they were using a lot of stock footage because of the decline of sales tickets in Japan. So, Godzilla's Revenge was really aimed at little kids. There wasn't supposed to be a big, adult message. There was, the horrors of nuclear war. That wasn't there in this one. This one was made to entertain children. And I think that if you look at it in that light, maybe you don't get so offended by the silliness of it. Just my opinion, but hey, so like I say, Godzilla's Revenge, I don't really mind so much. Let's see. Godzilla vs. Biollante was one that maybe was kind of skirting with being on the list. The funny thing is, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, Godzilla vs. Biollante might be my favorite Godzilla movie, or it can be my least favorite. Again, it's a number 2. It's the second movie in the Heisei series, the second generation Godzilla movies, and it has, again, a fair amount of national chest thumping, to the point where the Americans are the ones that actually release Godzilla from the volcano he fell into at the end of Godzilla Returns, or aka Godzilla 1985. The Americans are, definitely portrayed as villains in this one. But at the same time, Godzilla fought a different kind of enemy, and that was, in Biollante, from what he'd ever fought before. And that was intriguing. And when I was younger, I had a very heavy interest in, biochemistry. So again, that aspect. Now, of course, as with any Godzilla movie, the science is completely, pseudoscience. But still, the idea was intriguing. And that's pretty much what kept it off the list for me. Even though, like I said, it is actually one of my favorites, I can understand why some people wouldn't like it either. It also is the one that introduced the character Miki Sugusa, the psychic, and again, I actually like her character when they're not going overboard with the psychic character bits. When she's just being a regular person, it's fine. It's Megumi Odaka. I think she's actually a wonderful actress, but just very much that one I could see why people wouldn't like that movie. Let's say one other that kind of bothered me on the, but not enough to get on the list, was Godzilla vs. Megalon. This one, I don't know where, I guess maybe because they had the last several movies of, aliens coming down to attack Earth, and they would continue after this as well. They decided to instead, we're going to have a monster come from under the sea, and try and destroy the mainland, kind of Atlantis style. Not a bad idea necessarily, but the whole thing just feels, even for a Showa era Godzilla, Generation 1 Godzilla, it feels really silly to me. can't, maybe I can't even really put my finger on why. Some of it I think is the production, which normally I wouldn't really put on these movies, especially the early movies, just because of what they were working with. But they were actually originally Godzilla vs. Megalon was not supposed to be a Godzilla movie. It was supposed to be featuring Jet Jaguar as the main character, but they weren't sure that they could get that character to sell on his own. So they said, well, let's bring in Godzilla. We know Godzilla sells. Okay, that, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, that makes sense. But there's just so much about this movie is so silly. I love, honestly, one of my favorite episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000 follows that movie, and it's gloriously over the top and silly. And that may actually, my feelings on the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode may be what actually color my opinion of the movie, and maybe why I didn't actually put it on the list. But so that's that one is so gloriously oddball to me that's it's not on it's not on the list. Now for the movie that was my number one least favorite Godzilla movie. And oh boy, there are so many reasons. And like I said, I was debating as to whether or not to put Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah as number one. And in the end, it came down to which one offended me just as a Godzilla fan versus which one offended me as a movie-going fan. Well, not movie-going fan, but movie-viewing fan. And this was a movie that I saw years ago. I had it on VHS just before DVDs got prominent, and I saw it a couple times. I might have even only seen it once at that time, and then I just kind of forgot about it. It didn't leave a lasting mark on me, if you will. And so for some people, a movie that's forgettable can be just as bad as a movie that's horrendous. But that's not why I put it on the list. I went back and last year I bought a lot of the Heisei series Godzilla movies on DVD. A lot of them were bundled in double packs together, just because enjoyable cheese and being a fan of the series. So this one was bundled with Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. And it's the second generation Mothra versus Godzilla. And I explained why I didn't really like the first one, and my reasons for not liking the second one are completely different. It has nothing to do with, again, some people might be going, oh, you just don't like Mothra. No, actually, I like Mothra. I like Mothra's standalone movies. Mothra is downright awesome. In Godzilla Godzilla Final Wars, Mothra has a serious kick-ass moment. But in this one, I'll say this: my reasons for hating this one are completely different than my reasons for disliking the original. You don't get, you get Godzilla being sprayed a little bit with it, but it's very clear that it doesn't, does little if anything to Godzilla. It barely affects him at all. Though I think it's kind of indicated that maybe it's slightly acidic, so it's like, oh, it hurts a little bit, but that's, beyond that, it's nothing. Visually, it's not bad. You get not only Mothra, you get an evil Mothra, supposedly. Batra, who supposedly was created to destroy everything when mankind was getting above a certain level of technological progress and aggressiveness. Batra basically would come out and wipe everything out, versus Mothra, who would then try to defend the people. That's not necessarily a bad thing. My issue with this movie comes down to, trying to think of the right way to say this. I don't have a problem with a movie that has an environmental message. I do, however, have a problem with a movie that has a very ham-fisted environmental message that can't keep its own story straight. Granted, I know this was the 90s, it was the big thing to put, bio messages in your movies. And I don't have anything against it. I think we need to protect the planet. We need to be careful with what we do. But at the same time, that rarely translates into entertainment. And, I'm sorry, but I don't, to me, Godzilla is entertainment. Stan Lee was once quoted as saying about comic books, people would ask him all kinds of questions. What's your sense on that? And he said he wouldn't put those into movies into his comic books because he felt that a comic book, as a writer, he was a purveyor of entertainment, and that those things, your political opinions, your religious opinions, those things were not, while they were there, your own personal opinions shouldn't be on the page in entertainment. And I get what he's saying. Some people will disagree with that, but I get what Stan was saying in that. And in this movie, it's so ham-fisted. And the thing is, it seems insanely forced as well, because there's, other than one scene of a mountain eroding and exposing Mothra's egg, which they claim is a result of humans deforesting this infant island and doing all this stuff, which when you actually get to the island, there's nothing that actually indicates that they were ever actually there. Like I said, this message is so, and every few minutes there's this, oh, it's mankind, we did this is all our fault. It's like, what? The movie starts out with a meteorite hitting the Earth. And everything springs from that happening. The meteorite it doesn't hit the Earth, it actually lands in the ocean, wakes up Godzilla, and wakes up Batra. Somehow, now granted this is again going to, pseudoscience, Godzilla science if you will, that meteorite landing in the ocean causes storms, not just, tsunamis. That would almost make sense, oh my gosh, a giant rock landing in the ocean, causes huge waves. No, it actually causes storms, which, it's like, meteorites don't work quite like that. But, and every time, somehow they keep, everything that comes off of this comes off as, oh my gosh, we're mankind, we're destroying the planet. This is somehow, I was like, all of this is because a rock fell from space. This has nothing to do with, I was like, this is Captain Planet level stupid writing. I mean, really. Yeah, I watched Captain Planet as a little kid, but I think most people would acknowledge now that the ham-fisted messages that were in Captain Planet were insanely over the top. And that's exactly what this movie is. Now, then somebody tried to say, somebody makes one line about the meteor being being what started all of this, and the person just corrects me and goes, oh no, the meteor just set off what was already there. Our doing, all this list of stuff to the planet is what actually caught. It's like, no, it wasn't. In fact, if you look at the movie, everything looks pretty dang pristine. There's one scene that shows a bunch of construction equipment moving some earth around. That's it. And of course you have the evil business tycoon, but all he is a rehash of the business tycoon from the very first Godzilla vs. Mothra, who wanted to steal Mothra's egg. Just, like I said, this movie was insulting on many levels. Not just, like I said, not just as a Godzilla fan, which of course Godzilla's barely even in this movie. And then you get to the end where it's like, okay, what about the monsters? I made a comment about the first Godzilla vs. Mothra, where, if it had been adult Mothra that had stopped Godzilla, I wouldn't have minded it so much. I wouldn't have been the biggest fan, but I would have liked it a lot more than Godzilla's caterpillars, or Mothra's caterpillars taking out Godzilla. So this one, you actually have Batra and Mothra start out as larvae, well, after Mothra hatches from the egg, then go into its cocoon and metamorphosize into adult Mothra. Mind you, it's stated very early on that Mothra and Batra had a great battle a long time ago. Mothra to defend the people and Batra to try and destroy them. Mothra won the fight. So in this movie, they actually, in a way, they sort of pick that up. And it almost, in a way, you could almost say that they pick up that fight and Godzilla just sort of gets in the middle of it. animal instinct, if you will. That works on some level. But the biggest problem is that Mothra and Batra are fighting. Then all of a sudden, let's see, Batra gets the upper hand. Mothra's kind of sitting there injured. Godzilla shows up, starts kicking Batra's butt. Then all of a sudden, Mothra is Batra's ally and starts fighting Godzilla while Batra's injured over here. Mothra, kind of incapacitates Godzilla for a moment, gives energy to Batra, then they both tag team. It's like, why are these two fighting together? Godzilla, other than the fact that Godzilla is an animal who's trying to fight both of you, Godzilla hasn't been listed as evil in this movie. Godzilla's just sort of there. Then they're tag teaming to try and take out Godzilla, which they end up doing together. It's like there is no reason to ever indicate why these two decided to join forces against Godzilla. Nothing whatsoever. Then at the even more insulting is at the very end, they say, oh, well, Batra was actually really a good monster, and there's a gigantic meteorite that's actually headed towards Earth that's even bigger than the one that just landed, and it's going to destroy Earth, and Batra was actually supposed to go out and stop it. Because Batra is now dead, Godzilla kills it, Mothra is going to go out and destroy it. It's like, wait, where did that come from? Again, not only are we going, with two giant meteors in the same movie, now Batra was good? No. So it was just terrible, terrible writing. And like I said, not even just as a Godzilla fan, but as a movie fan, it felt insulting. It's very disappointing, and that's why Godzilla vs. Mothra from the Heisei series, Generation 2, holds my number one spot as my least favorite Godzilla of all time. I said there may be Godzilla movies that are technically worse from both production aspect and personal opinions for people, but this was my least favorite. So that's what it is. Next week I'll be picking up with the racing series again. But for now, that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Speculative Dude, out.